Lola
like,
was great. What do you think happens to Lola ultimately?
either she's probably, just on Alderaan when it happens.
But then she flies away, flutters away into space.
Then it appears like years later.
Incoming transmission from an unknown source. It seems to be urgent. Patching them through. They're calling themselves the HoloNet Marauders.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the HoloNet Marauders podcast. My name is AJ. I'm joined here by my bomb bad partner in crime, Jem the Jedi, Jamie.
Hello.
There is no bomb bad bozo Matt today. There's no Marauder Matt. Bomb bad bozo Matt. Maddo. That's his
He's
new
got a
name.
lot of nicknames.
Yeah, he's the nickname guy. That's how it goes with him. But yeah, there's no Matt today. It's just Jamie and I. And we're going to be recapping Kenobi. And if you want Matt's take on anything, you can go back, or any of our deeper takes, or just whatever. Go back to our HoloNet Marauder live events that you can watch here on YouTube. And if you're listening here, we have a YouTube, as we always mention, as you probably know by now, and you're probably already subscribed to us. So just going to mention it again anyways. But how you doing, Jamie? Doing well? You're
I'm
upstairs,
as good
but,
as I can be. Broadcasting live from the other area of the house, completely opposite end of the room.
Yes.
Other end of the house, yeah, but whatever.
People,
it's all good.
I think it was Michael Rexing around at Celebration. I think he said it at Celebration that it was funny that we do stuff on separate sides of the house. And it is. We don't really have the setup to do it together in the same room. And we started this during COVID when we lived together anyways with Matt. But this setup is just easier.
Yeah, logistically, like, we don't have like a sound mixer to make sure everything is like, pretty much we can't do it in the same room because we'll pick up each other's sound. Like,
Right.
we straight up do not have the equipment to mix things at the same time.
And we started out as just a
that's why we're in the other
podcast.
room.
So if you're listening, we record separate sides of the house. We're not in the same room. Really, ever.
It works. It just works.
It just works, as Todd Howard
it
from
just
Bethesda
works.
would say. If you know, you know.
Hey.
So
you
we're gonna
explain
be,
the reference, so now everyone knows.
if you know, you know, and if you didn't know, now you know. So we're gonna be talking about Kenobi today. Obi-Wan Kenobi was the show, even though we just called it Kenobi. But we're gonna be doing it in an interesting way since it's just the two of us. We're gonna be doing our 5 favorite moments. So this is kind of a Marauder original idea that, like, we used to always rank 5 things or 3 things and work backwards. So we'll start with our 5th favorite thing and work our way down to 1 to build the suspense of what our favorite moment is. Mm-hmm. But before we get started, would anyone like to get out? No. What'd you think of the show, Jamie? You know, obviously we watch each episode together, all 6 of them. It went by like in the snap of a finger.
Yeah,
But-
so I loved the show. It went by so quickly, though, because it started while we were at Celebration, obviously, and they dropped 2 that week. And so it was just like, well, all right. It was great. Like, for what it was, we all knew it was going to be this in-between adventure, and we all knew the outcome was going to be Vader and Obi-Wan would fight, and neither one of them would die. So...
Right.
It was this adventure that we didn't know we needed, and it was great that like we like got more of like that backstory and like that beef of why. I don't know. It just added more to the beef, I guess, because there was already a pretty big beef between them.
Yeah, it was a show that I hate to say I never wanted it, because I'll always take more Star Wars, but I think our friend Landry Q. Walker, who wrote, you know, if you follow us, you know who he is at this point, the author. I saw him tweet the other day that, like, sometimes you don't need more, and I think he was referring to, like, this season of Kenobi was good, and we don't want a second. He doesn't want a second season, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in his mouth, but
But
I feel the
concept
same
of
as that.
yeah.
Like, they did very well with this show. I didn't know I wanted it, or I didn't know I needed it. They just could have gone through time and not even made this show, and it would still work, obviously, 'cause I don't know. Like, does a lot happen in this show? Yeah, Kenobi grows, Obi-Wan grows, and becomes the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan that we eventually see, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't want to see a season 2, and that's a good thing. Like, I liked the show. I don't need more. I'd like spin-offs with Reva, or
Yeah.
Roken, or some of these other characters. Maybe even like a Vader spinoff of sorts with the Inquisitors. Like that would be cool.
Yeah, I think one way to like look at it is this series was already a spin-off of obviously the movies
Yeah.
in between. But then if you want to compare it further, it's also its own standalone thing. Like think of it like it's like a Rogue One or Solo situation where it's a standalone whoop, and then people are calling for like more spin-offs from that. So like obviously we're getting like the Andor show, which is a spin-off of a standalone movie. So a spin-off of Rogue One, we're getting Andor finally. And one can hope that eventually there'll be like a Crimson Dawn or like a Kira show or an Enfys Nest show or a Lando show from Solo. Like,
yeah.
We're
So-
getting the spin-offs of things. And so I don't think that there'll be like a direct like season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I would love to see a spin-off of the concepts that were placed like in this show though.
This is a question I keep asking myself or thinking about in my head. I even talked to our local post office guy about it because we have an Etsy shop, guys, and we sell headbands. Jamie makes the headbands, the Hunter headbands, and since you people buy them, I go deliver them to my job is to bring them to the post office, and I talked to our friend over there, and I was like, so what do you think of the Star Wars shows? Like, and I keep thinking of this myself. I'm like, I like the shows, I'm enjoying them, but I miss the movies. Star Wars movies just hit me differently. Like going to see Solo opposed to, I'll compare Solo and this because they're both kind of spin-offs with characters we already know, I guess, and stories we didn't know we needed. And I remember seeing Solo and being like so jazzed after. And I don't know if it's just the going to the movie experience with the crowd and everything, and spaced out over 6 weeks or 5 weeks we see Kenobi. I don't know. Like, what's your thought on? Do you like seeing a Star Wars film better than the shows? Obviously, they're going to stick with the show format. It works, especially during a pandemic. People can watch it from the comfort of their homes. But like, what's your thought on that?
I think that just the whole, you can see a movie and it'll take up a couple hours of time and like that's it. And then you're like, all right, that's over. But as opposed to like watching a show, you got to devote like if you're binging it, you're devoting like a full day, or you're devoting like a full like couple weeks just to like to do this like every single night.
Yeah.
And like, what if you don't like it halfway through?
Yeah, you just kind of
Okay.
stick it out if you're a Star Wars
Yeah.
fan and you want to watch it.
Yeah, but with a movie, it's just like, all right, a couple hours of my time, and if I don't like it halfway through, it's just a couple hours of my time. But like, I very rarely have like turned off like a movie, and it has never been like a Star Wars movie. A TV show, I'm more liable to like turn that off in the middle of if I like don't like it. But again, haven't done that with the Star Wars thing because all of the Star Wars content, as much as everyone is like ranking on it, it is still like really good content. at
No,
the
I
end of
know
the day.
it's people. I mean, they rank on the movies too. So like,
Everyone ranks on everything, and we all know
Yeah.
it. So we just got to move on.
and I don't know the movies. At the end of the day, the movies just seem to the films
Yeah.
seem to have
Film.
more magic to them than the movies. And I mean, I know a lot more money goes into making the movies, and maybe it's simply just that,
Yeah.
better special effects. And I never thought I would be like, oh, I like this better because it has better special effects, and that's not it. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a movie guy over a show guy.
I think you are a movie guy over a show guy, but that's been established a long time ago.
But let us know. Let us know in the comments. What are you thinking of all these shows, and do you miss the movies? The answer is probably yes, you like the shows, and yes, you miss the movies. But let's get into our Kenobi chat with our 5 things we enjoy, our 5 favorite things we've enjoyed from the show.
Yeah.
So,
So you want to go
Jamie,
backwards?
would you like to
So-
begin, or
Yeah, you
should
wanna
I
go-
begin?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay,
You want to go
number 5.
backwards, number 5?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess like for context, the 5 things can be like a specific moment, an overall concept, anything really.
It can be anything.
Yeah. So my like 5th top thing in the Kenobi series was I loved the scene of Tala going through security in Fortress Inquisitorius, because that was something we haven't really like seen before, of like an Imperial getting checked by an Imperial, and then him being like, well, you gotta like give me like your like a code cylinder, and she's just like okay, mister.
There it is.
And like just like I love that entire sequence because like she pulls rank on him, and the guy is like, ugh, and like I loved this like pseudo metal detector like thing that like she had to go through. Also, it was just very cool. I love seeing like Empire things like hashed, because like everything we get like in like the original trilogy is just I'm just so bored with the Empire in the original trilogy. But like seeing
No, I mean
it with
they
like
make
fresh
a way.
eyes.
They make
Yeah.
a way to make it more original and
Yeah, making it like fresh again is like really cool to like see like the different stuff that they actually get to do, but it still feels very original trilogy, which is obviously the goal. So I love Tala going through the security, and like anytime she was undercover as I guess her Imperial captain, and then she's just like, no, I'm actually a rebel. So I love that. I
no,
love
I
everything about
that's a
that.
great. I almost put that on my list. It didn't make it, and I'm glad because I don't want us to have too many duplicates. But that was such a great moment.
Yeah.
And that was like, I was trying to think of like what Tala's best moment was because she was one of the coolest characters in this show, and it was probably that. It was probably her being undercover because that was when we got the most of her. Later on we get her demise, unfortunately.
Yeah. We'll talk
And
about that.
early on, she saves Kenobi and sends a stormtrooper over a laser fence and cuts him in half. That was a cool moment.
Yeah, I always yeah, which is cool.
I think she sent him over that. Yeah, because I don't know if Kenobi did that or if she did that. Kenobi was surrounded, so. I have a question about Tala.
Yeah.
So, was she originally part of the Empire and she left and now she just like kept that outfit and was undercover, or was
So-
she just stole that and like
Yes
Rose?
and no. So your
Okay.
first bit, yes and no. So she was part of the Empire. She
'Cause
joined
I
it.
know-
She realized what was happening, and she's like, I can't do this, and so she was finding her way out. And so her way out was helping the path, but she still technically was like part of the Empire.
Okay, I
and
think
her,
I missed
her
that bit.
codes and whatnot like still worked.
Because I remember
towards the end of like Fortress Inquisitorius, she pretty much is just like, yeah, my codes aren't gonna like work anymore after this, and the Inquisitors are just like, you picked the wrong side, and she's like, I was never really.
no, exactly.
For
Because I know
your side of
her
things.
iconic line was, "This is never who I was." So I was
Right.
like, "Wait, were you literally never this, or are you just saying you were this, but you were never?" Like I was
No, no.
confused of whether she was actually an Imperial in the past.
No, I'd say it was like a callous type situation, except instead of like being so like deep into like the Empire side and sending
It was
information,
short-lived.
she was actually like out there helping the path more actively,
Okay.
in person. So
My fifth was the Freck situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, I hated Freck. I thought he was a good character, which means he was kind of like a bad person you would see in real life, maybe, with the
Yeah.
whole like bumper sticker thing and the flag on his truck and everything.
right.
But I just thought that was cool. And he was kind of funny, right? He was,
Yeah,
he
was
looked
a-
funny. He talked
He was
funny.
an interesting. He was literally a mole. He was a
Yeah,
miner, but
a
he was
mole
a mole,
miner.
like
Yeah.
a digging miner. Like, come on, you don't get more on the nose than that. Yeah, I agree with you. I wanted to put this on my list, but I didn't want it to get too spicy in the chat. So I was like, I don't really want to like talk about it like that much. But I think
No, I
that
know.
it's important that it makes you realize how serious this is and how real world inspired Star Wars always has been and always will be.
Right.
That's
And it was just-
really
it
as
was-
much as I gotta say about that right now.
Even those things aside, it was just kind of a cool scene of them on the back of the truck and the stormtroopers coming on, and it was a tense. It kind of fit the show. That's how the show was the whole time, just like tense. Like, oh, is this gonna happen here? And but yeah, I put that as number 5. But yeah, Freck. Did he die,
Yeah, I don't know.
or he just got like doinked?
He might have just gotten
Dunk.
doinked. Dunk.
But on to number 4. What'd you have for number 4?
Number 4. This is a very specific moment that I laughed my butt off at, which wasn't really that funny, but it was something that I found hilarious. Number 4 was Vader getting absolutely pantsed on Jabim. What I mean by that, he yanks down like the transport, which turns out that no one's in, and then the other transport is immediately behind it, just like, and Vader just looks at it. I lost it.
No, that was good.
I live for Vader getting absolutely duped because he's just like so tunnel vision sometimes on like the task at hand because he's like, no one can stop me. I'm doing this. No one can get away. And then they get away.
Everybody gets away. Like
It's just like,
in
come on,
Rogue
dude.
One.
You got such blind spots here.
In Rogue One, Leia gets away with the plans. In Fallen Order, Cal and Seer get away, swimming away. In this, they get away like that. In Empire, it's the same thing, out of the Hoth base there, Echo base.
Like the best thing about it is like obviously Vader's mask never has any actual like expression to it, but you can tell in that moment he is just so pissed and just like, God, it happened again. Like, how am I letting myself do this all the time? But yeah, number 4 is Vader getting absolutely pantsed on Jabim.
My number 4 was the Anakin Obi-Wan flashback.
Yeah.
And it's why I chose, if you're watching, this background. I was feeling nostalgic over the Jedi Temple in Coruscant.
Very specific prequel Jedi.
Yeah, it's just, I forgot how
Console.
much I love that floor
Yeah.
in the Jedi Temple. But I don't know, like, you guys probably know, like, we don't gush too much about Anakin on this show. Like, he's a fine character, obviously. Some people absolutely love him. We're kind of just in the middle, mid-high. But we love Obi-Wan. We obviously love Obi-Wan. We love us some Obi-Wan. And that flashback was, like, so well done, I thought. It opened episode 5, I believe it was, part 5,
Yeah.
with that flashback of just Coruscant, pans back, and it's Anakin's head. Episode 2,
Yeah.
with the haircut and the braid. And the de-aging was fine. Didn't take me out of it. You know, you could tell, but it was fine. And the choreography for it was cool. And I've always wanted to see more Jedi sparring, especially in live action. We've never seen it in live action, I don't think. They always talk about it in the books or comics. I don't know if it was in Clone Wars.
Possibly. But I loved this, though, because we had, like, the little, like, training session between the two of them. And
It was awesome.
it was just perfect. Like, it was perfectly done. And, like, it was a little bit, like, off at first, like, seeing, like, younger Anakin. And it was just like, oh, whoa,
Yeah.
there he is. But, like, I think it was just enough of what we had. Because I know that everyone really wanted, like, a lot of, like, Clone Wars flashbacks. But it's just, like, that's in the past. And that's not what this exact show, like, is about. I think that it told us, like, enough of the fact that, like, Anakin, now Vader, and Obi-Wan, like, are still thinking a lot about it and still holding on.
Yeah.
And I think that was just, like, really important for the two of them. And I also, just, like, side note as well, loved the moment with the other episode when Obi-Wan, like, sees, like, Anakin in the distance, like, on the edge of the cliff, just like
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And, like, that was, like, the moment I was like, oh, that was Anakin. Like, that, like, got me. I was like, that.
And it was
that looked
spooky.
really good.
It was like
Yeah,
a
it was very
little
spooky.
vision out of a horror film almost. So that was
Yeah,
really cool.
it was very cool. But yeah, I agree. I loved, like, seeing, like, Coruscant, like, as well. Like, seeing just
Yeah.
like a sweeping view of Coruscant again. I was just like, oh, there it is. There
And
is
it
the
looked
great,
good.
great shining jewel.
It was one of the few things in the show that looked like really good, like visually, because the show was very grainy and dark. And I don't know if that's what, obviously that's what they were going for, because it was also a dark, edgy kind of show. Tense show is what I want to say.
Yeah.
But that looked great. It looked like it was straight from the prequels, if not better, CGI. And I thought it worked well. And I would like to, like, if someone makes an edit of that scene before the elevator scene in episode 2 in Attack of the Clones, if they could, like, splice that in, because that he's looking out at Padme's apartment, I think, like he always is. And it's like, it seems like that's before they head over to go, like, up the
I took
elevator
that
to
as
see them.
that's after. I took that as it was after some point
It could be after, I guess.
in, like, early
It could work either
during
way, right?
the Clone Wars, I guess.
No, apparent that was pre. It was pre episode 2
It was?
because he had both his hands. Anakin had both
Oh.
his hands, and apparently they both had the lightsabers they had because they lose them in the movie. They each lose their
Okay, yeah.
lightsabers.
No,
yeah, it was-
that shows you how much I was actually, like, paying attention to that kind of content.
I can't take credit. Someone pointed it out to me, but still.
Nice.
But yeah, that is
Okay,
my
I
number
see.
4.
Yeah.
And
All right.
I guess let me go first for number 3.
Okay.
Just if we're gonna get a duplicate eventually. So
yeah.
Number 3 for me was a dark situation. I called it the Inquisitorious Tomb with all the
Ooh.
Jedi. I just, because when I was coming up with my
Yeah.
list, I was like, things that really hit me in the show. I was kind of in my head going over all the episodes, and I was like, what really stuck out to me? And that was definitely something that stuck out. Very chilling and very spooky to see all
Yeah.
these. I don't know if they were dead or just like kind of frozen in time in there. I think they were dead.
I'd
all
say
the
they were
Jedi.
dead. Yeah, I think that's safe to assume that everyone in that tomb was dead and
Yeah.
Amber Eyes, like in Jurassic Park,
Like
maybe,
Jurassic
but they
Park,
were dead. Yeah, that was definitely one of, like, the most, like, haunting scenes of the series. I agree. Seeing, like, Master Sunube just, like, absolutely, like,
One of our favorites.
my heart was ripped
We
out. of my
rewatch that
chest.
episode all the time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure after we watched like that episode of like Kenobi, we were like, we gotta watch Lightsaber Lost.
Yeah.
We gotta just make ourselves feel better here. But yeah, Master Sunube is like fantastic. If you guys don't know, he is like, I don't know the species, but he is the Jedi, the first one you see in that tomb. And he's awesome. He's this elderly Jedi that pretty much teaches Ahsoka, hey, you gotta take it slow. It's okay to take it slow sometimes. And then he's a badass with his like lightsaber that's literally like a walking cane because he like detaches it. It's so good.
It's so good.
He's a great Jedi.
R.I.P.
I can't believe it. But yeah, there's just like I'm so intrigued by everything with that like tomb because I want to know so much more about it. I just want to know so much more about the Inquisitorius in general.
No, exactly. I mean, anytime Star Wars gives us a moment like that, I'm like so thirsty for it, like so hungry for it. Like
Yeah, there's a story in every single one of those
So much-
people that were dead. So.
Exactly. And hopefully we see more of that tomb or hear more about it in some other show or something coming up.
Yeah, so I guess for my number 3, it kind of relates to that in the sense of we don't know who any of those people were aside from like Master Sunube and I think a few other people were identified. But my number 3 was the path and just the knowing that there's other Jedi survivors, which we as the audience know, but learning through seeing Obi-Wan learn that other people survived was just like a very cool moment as well, because he thought that he was the only one that was left along with like Yoda. And it's like, Obi-Wan, there is a bigger galaxy out there. Just reminding him. But yeah, I loved everything about the path. Just longtime listeners of the show know I always talk about my favorite era is this post-Order 66 era because I'm just so intrigued by the fact that, yes, many Jedi could have survived the Jedi Purge. And seeing that there's pretty much an underground railroad type situation for Jedi is like blowing my mind, man. I still think about it like daily. Like if there's anything from this show that I am still thinking about, it is the path. It is everyone who was like a major part of it, and then also just like what their process would be. And like I gotta go back and like read everything again that's like scrawled on the walls because like there's just like so much
there was a lot.
juicy content like tossed in there.
And half the time it's like, was this something like for the lore, or did someone just like scratch their kid's name in there like on the set? Or apparently someone carved Kylo Ren into the wall, so I don't know about that.
I haven't heard about that one, but one name I don't remember what the name was, but our friend Ryan told me that there was one name that was out of some random Legends article that was posted on StarWars.com like mid 2000s of some Order 66 survivor, and so it like casually like just canonized them, and I'm like, well, that's interesting because it was even weirder because like Ryan and I were talking about Order 66 survivors like the week before that episode dropped, and he's like, hey, remember that person I name dropped? Their name was written on the wall. And I'm like, settle down, buddy.
Ryan really went in Photoshop or whatever and put it in.
Yeah, that's what he really did. Next thing you know, it says like Pesto on the wall as well.
Pesto was here.
Pesto was here.
Pesto would not carve his name on the wall because the instrument would have to be pointy. So he wouldn't do that. I know Ryan listens to the show, so hopefully that was for him.
So does Pesto.
But yeah, the path is a great choice, and one of the coolest things the show introduced. And that could also, we talked about this the other day on the couch, like that could fall anywhere. You know, in a lot of these shows, it could be in Andor, it could be in Bad Batch. We came up with like a Bad Batch story where they could be helping with the path with Quinlan or something.
Yeah.
Hope maybe we could see it in Jedi Survivor. I mean, it's called Jedi Survivor, so Jedi survivors go through the path. So
yes, they do. Yeah, and the little like side note as well, like early on, like the first time we meet Roken, he literally says something along the lines of, the Empire still found my wife anyway, and she paid the price. And so I have so many questions about who Roken's wife was, because she was clearly a Jedi in the past, and she tried to just like
I think it was Yaddle.
Woo, that is a ship that I didn't know that I needed. Wow.
Roken and Yaddle.
Okay.
Oh my.
Let's just push that one aside. But yeah, that's something that like I just can't stop thinking about. Number 3 is the path.
It's a good one. It's a good one. It's a great one. I missed it. I didn't have it on my list, but I missed it. What is your number 2?
My number 2? This is where it's getting dicey because I have a few other random moments that I really, really like.
I have honorable mentions, so after 2 we can do a few of those.
Okay, number 2, the homeless clone.
Oh man. See, from those first 2 episodes, I was trying to dig back, and I'm like, what
Yeah.
happened? We watched it in a hotel room in Anaheim, and I haven't rewatched those episodes.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
so
what
I
happened?
I believe that was in episode 1 actually.
It was 2 because
It
it
was
was
2?
two. Episode 2 was Dayu.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was episode 2. Seeing the homeless clone, literally at Timora as well, and he had
Yeah.
long hair, and he just looked like crap, and like, oh my god, like that was just like something so cool to see. Because another question that keeps me up at night is what the heck happens to all of the clones? What I need to know like what the Empire does. That's one of my biggest questions about like Bad Batch season 2 is I want to know how pretty much the clones get mass decommissioned. I want to know officially what the ruling is.
Yeah. I don't
oh
think
my
we'll learn
gosh.
it in season 2, but well,
No, but it's gonna eventually
maybe.
get there.
Maybe by the
so,
end, yeah.
But like by seeing that there's literally like a homeless veteran situation with like this clone trooper, it's just so cool. And like it's so interesting that they like played into like the stereotype as well of like obviously being a homeless veteran. They played into the stereotype of he possibly is like some sort of drug addict because there's a big like drug trade on Dayu, and like
Yeah.
he sees Obi-Wan, he's begging for money, and he doesn't recognize him. And so the theory is like, oh, maybe he's like high and he like doesn't know who he's seeing, or he just straight. My theory is he just straight up doesn't care. He's just like, I have lost everything. It doesn't matter to me anymore.
I think
So
he
even if
genuinely
didn't
didn't
recognize him,
remember, or just
Then that-
didn't recognize him.
And then that's the other theory is like a legion could be so huge. You might not ever meet an actual Jedi. You might never meet the commanding officer. So like whatever. Plus, it's not like he was like a 212th clone. He was a 501st clone. So like he probably never.
Well, and
did.
just the simple fact that
So
no one else recognized Obi-Wan for like a couple episodes. Like, why
Right,
would
right.
I don't know? Like,
But here I am going off about like a homeless clone trooper, just like seeing that down there. Also, just like seeing the clone trooper armor in like live action. That's the first like glimpse we have of it is in actual physical live action trooper armor. Was like this homeless dude.
yeah, 'cause
cool.
when Tamura was Cody,
all just
I think it was
CGI'd.
CG, right?
He just wore like
He
a
had-
blue like unitard, and they just. Boop.
Which is silly because they had him suit up for Django and everything. Like, why not put some armor on for Cody? I mean, if we're wrong on that, somebody let us know. But I'm pretty sure he was CG just like
He
everyone
was
else.
CG'd
so,
for everything.
yeah.
Yeah, so that was my number 2.
No, that's a really good one. You know, it's always good to see Tamura. So it was funny
Actually-
to see him pop up there.
Yeah, that was excuse me. That was the second instance of the live action armor that we saw in the show. The first was as the seat opens.
opening-
the opening,
the
was
opening
Order
show,
66,
yeah.
which I refuse to put in my top 5 because of the emotions, but it is an honorable
No,
mention, but we'll get to that.
People
We'll get
always
to
say like,
Order
"Oh, I get so
66.
sad with Order 66," and it is very sad. But it's such a cool thing in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
Star Wars' Thanos snap for me, and I know that happened first before the Thanos thing in
Yeah.
the MCU. But
Yeah,
the Thanos snap, and to go on a little Marvel tangent here for a little, you know me.
yeah. Like, what is this?
I don't know, just the Thanos snap was like awesome in Marvel because it was so spooky, and like whenever it happened, when it happened, the Ant-Man 2, here we go, post credit scene when everyone gets snapped when he's in the van in the quantum realm, like that was so spooky to me. And Order 66 is that, hearing Palpatine say it, like in Fallen Order, when you hear it, it's like, oh my, you get chills. Because it's such a it's one of the most powerful moments in Star Wars. So
While we're on Marvel though, really quickly, with the Order 66 versus the Thanos snap, the spookiest like Thanos snap though was Monica coming back in
Yeah.
in WandaVision. That one was so haunting and so jarring because like she snaps back and she's in a hospital room because she was visiting her mom. And then suddenly you're in this hospital and it's like mass chaos and everyone's just like reappearing and just like
No,
that
it's cool because
that one
what-
is like what like killed me because I was like this is actually terrifying.
the contrast between that and like the Far From Home one in Spider-Man, that's when they called it
Yeah.
the blip. It was so goofy, and I'm like, oh come on.
Yeah, because
Like,
the
this was
kids
a-
like re-show up in the middle of like a basketball game and it's like
Someone
oh, it's
falls
the
into like a
band.
tuba. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But yeah, no,
yeah,
that was well
yeah.
done. Anyways, there's your Marvel minute from
That's
the
Marvel
HoloNet
Minute.
Marauders. And Matt wasn't here for it.
Oh, he's gonna be so upset.
My number 2. So these last 2 things for me were, I guess, powerful moments. They were emotional for me, And now my number 2 is Leia and Obi-Wan saying goodbye, like their final meeting on Alderaan.
Yeah.
Like that started to get me like a bit teary and like emotional inside. And I don't know, it has such a good connection to A New Hope because he's like, if you ever need me again, let me know, but like we got to be secretive about it. So that kind of fills that plot hole for people. Like, oh, they already met. Like, why does she call him? Why is she weird in the transmission? So I don't know. And not to mention, like, we see Alderaan in this show and how beautiful it was. But I thought their final goodbyes were great. And she talks about the holster. And she's like, Obi-Wan's like, I wasn't going to give a 10-year-old a blaster. But their dynamic in the whole show was so good. I loved that.
Yeah, they were fantastic. And the little girl who was her, Vivian Blair, she was so good.
She was great.
She was such a good little addition. And Carrie would have loved her. And she was just so good. Like one of my favorite moments as well that didn't make this list, but one of my favorite moments was in the first episode when she just sasses back her cousin so quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Just shuts him down. And it's just like, the cousin is just like, perfect. Yeah, and I love in the final scene with the two of them together, he makes her laugh so hard. Like
I know.
Like that was
Obi-Wan went through some stuff in this show, and I don't think he cracked a smile the whole time, unless it was that flashback.
He didn't crack a smile pretty much, unless like he was like looking at Leia doing something like for her that like, yeah.
That was great.
It was perfect. Yeah. Whew.
Man.
You want to do honorable mentions, or do you want to do number 1?
Yeah, let's do a couple honorable mentions before we reveal our ones.
So to segue into that, honorable mention for me was just seeing Alderaan, seeing so much of Alderaan, like seeing like the first like glance of it. Like obviously we get like the wide shot of it at like the end of like Revenge of the Sith of them like arriving, but like seeing it again and like actually seeing how pretty much utopian of a planet this is, it was just like, oh, this is beautiful, and I'm so happy I could see it and experience it. And it looked like really cool. It was like a little like wonky in like the first episode with like they're like flying around to like, cause like she's the queen and whatnot. Rhea is the queen.
Right.
But like other than that, like it was very, very cool to see such like an actual utopian type society of like not quite a city planet, but it is like a very almost like closer to city planet, but you still have all like the natural like life like around it, and it was
the mountains and everything.
So good to see.
Yeah.
Loved Alderaan.
And it gets blown up.
Yes, it does.
Unfortunately.
I'm well aware. I've seen the movies.
It's sad. They just had to ruin the best place in the galaxy. One of my honorable mentions was the Reva redemption. Yes. I had to get a moment of her in here because I thought she was a great character, and I want to see more of her. And I think this, I'll give you a pun here. This opens the path for her to be more of a character we see, and I'm hoping, as we've talked about, that she joins the path and helps them to go from being an inquisitor from hunting Jedi to the path to saving Jedi. That's like a poetry rhymes thing. Like we need that.
Yeah. Because, like, Roken literally says at the end, like, we're just getting started. So it's like, all right, that's opening the door for the continuing of the path. And, like, I love how Reva's story was handled towards the end. They gave her, like, the beginnings of a redemption. They didn't just straight up, like, redeem her and then, in true Star Wars fashion, like, kill her off.
Right.
I'm glad that they didn't kill her. Like, she didn't deserve that. And so I'm so glad that they were like, all right, here's opening the door for redemption. Since she kind of was...
Door's open. Let's go.
Since she was working undercover the entire time anyway.
But Reva was such a great character. I was talking with a friend the other day that said she was like too over the top. And I'm like, no, she's like a villain. She's an inquisitor. Not to mention, this friend also doesn't like any villain ever, it seems. They're like, oh, I hate that person. And like, I'm like, I was going to say the name.
You're supposed to hate a villain.
You're supposed to hate the villain. They're supposed to be passionate and over the top. Like that's... If you do hate them, they're doing their job.
With the Inquisitors and with the Sith in general, is everything is supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be fueled by passion, fueled by the hate and the power. Like, that's what it's supposed to be. So, like, yeah, I'd rather they are these, like, overloaded, like, yeah, we're gonna, like, do all this stuff. But then, like, at the same time, like, I want them to actually, like, do those things. Like, I'm really disappointed we didn't get, like, helicopter sabers. And, like, I'm also really disappointed that we have the Grand Inquisitor just going... Hello.
Yeah, he didn't do much at all, really, in this show.
I'm glad was
Rupert
in
Friend
the
did
show.
Rupert Friend did a good job though.
Yeah, it goes back to I'm glad he was in it, and I'm satisfied with what we have. I just wish we got more of it. I love another honorable mention here. In the last episode, Vader deciding to follow Kenobi, and the Grand Inquisitor is just like, no, we like should just like let him go. Like you should like let go of that. And Vader's like, nope, I'm gonna do it my way. And then later on, Palpatine is literally like, you gotta like let this go, Vader. And Vader's like, all right, like.
All
Again,
right,
Vader
guess.
getting pantsed. All right, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's very. We talked about this on HoloNet Marauders Live that, you know, it's just like every other Sith, basically, like going after the. They shouldn't do this thing. They shouldn't go after the thing that, you know, has them over a barrel. But they, you know, they lose sight of
Yeah,
the horizon, as Yoda would say.
They want their
so.
revenge. They always want their revenge, and that's their Achilles heel. They really
Yeah.
want to seek revenge all the time. But yeah, Reva redemption. I'm very glad that she was redeemed, and well, starting to be redeemed, because her whole goal in the first place was, I'm gonna use this like against you, and she's finally able to be like, well, I did as much as I could working under you to figure this out, and it's not gonna work that way. So I guess I just gotta attack it head on from the other side of things. So
I have.
excited to see that.
Oh, definitely. They definitely have plans for her, I would think. I have 1.5 more honorable mentions.
Yeah, same.
I don't know. Okay. So, Ned B and Tala, their sacrifice, I guess. And just them overall, but then their sacrifice.
Yeah.
Pretty much to save everyone else getting away. It was great. That was another emotional moment in such a great episode. And I just love Ned B. Like, he never said a word. I forget what the quote was, but, like, actions are heavier
actions
than
speak-
words. Or
Yeah, always.
speak louder than words, yeah. So Ned B shielding off Tala so she could not die right away and hold up the
Yeah.
thermal detonator to blow all the stormtroopers away. That was great.
Yeah.
um,
I loved Ned B from the very first moment. Like,
Oh
top
yeah,
tier droid.
and they made merch for him.
Immediately.
Like we gotta get it. They made figures.
Oh,
They
yeah.
made a Lego. We gotta get that stuff.
We're looking into it. So my half moment here is Obi-Wan calling Vader Darth.
Yeah, that was great. You've always loved when he just calls him Darth in A New Hope.
Yeah,
You're a
it's
master
like-
of evil, Darth.
Because, like, Obi-Wan knows that, like, Darth is, like, a title and not, like, his first name. So
Yeah.
it's, like, so weird that he, like taunts him that way. And so I love how they just, like, slid that in there of him calling him Darth as his, like, parting words. It's good.
Quickly on that, that's like calling someone Mister, but like
Yeah.
I know a guy that calls everyone Mister. Like, thanks, Mister. Hey, Mister. How's it going, Mister? And I kind of love it. Like, I wouldn't say that to someone, but it's hilarious. Hey, Darth.
He kind of, like, Obi-Wan gives it the vibe of just being like, all right, mister.
Yeah, exactly.
And walks away. My other honorable mention is just all the Order 66, like, sequences.
You were like, I didn't want it on my list. No, here
Well,
it is.
I said I was trying to get it. I didn't want it on my top 5.
You didn't
but
want it
it's
in your
in my
top
honorable
5.
mentions.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's the kind of thing, like, you can't have a show that is post Order 66 and not have the trauma of Order 66
Right.
addressed by just showing us the trauma. But I love how it was Reva's trauma, and it wasn't like Obi-Wan's or Anakin's per se, but
Right.
we did see like Anakin storming the temple like a little bit. Yeah, and I'm glad how much they showed, and they didn't go any further just due to the obviously like the state of the world. But like it was so cool to see like Reva's like point of view essentially for this.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we got that little bit tossed in there, because you can't face that trauma without
No,
showing the
it was done
trauma.
well. It was done really well with her story, I thought. My final honorable mention,
Mm-hmm.
and this was like my half, was seeing our friends in the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
That made it really fun. That part 5, we saw most of them in.
Mm-hmm.
That was really fun to see all of them and see them get excited about it and to be able to share that with people. And it was really cool. I liked that a lot.
I love like seeing being able to like point out everyone, being like, oh, look at that, and then it was fun like afterwards, like chatting with them, and we could be like, oh, this is where we were talking about what we were gonna get for lunch. So just so you
Yeah,
know.
so if I ever go back and rewatch that, it's like
I gotta look.
I
and be
think
like, oh,
Michael said like, "Oh, I have some famous Amos cookies in that bag" or something.
yeah, he's like that
uh,
bag stuffed with famous Amos cookies. It's
I
like,
love that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So number
was so
one,
much fun.
AJ.
should we just say it together?
3, 2, 1. What's your number one?
Qui-Gon Jinn.
It's Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
It's Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon's Force Ghost that we finally
Holy smokes.
get to see.
It was something we all saw coming because like Obi-Wan's trying to like commune with him the entire series, but
Yeah.
like actually seeing it is a totally different experience. And I have not cried so hard watching Star Wars since like Han Solo showing up in Rise of Skywalker to help Ben through his stuff. Qui-Gon though,
I know.
Liam, getting to see Liam as Qui-Gon again,
It was such a funny version of Qui-Gon too, because he's like, "It took you long enough." These are the first words we hear Qui-Gon say in 22 years, 23 years,
yeah.
1999. So like, everyone loves Qui-Gon. I don't know a single person that doesn't like Qui-Gon, and he's just the best. He's my favorite,
Yeah.
probably my favorite Jedi. We only see him in one movie. We're gonna get some Tales of the Jedi stuff with him, so we're gonna get
Yes.
more Liam as Qui-Gon this fall, hopefully. So
Is he doing the voice for it?
yeah,
Oh,
He is.
I didn't know that.
yeah, he is. So
I'm excited.
he probably
Yeah.
did this and that in like the same day or same stuff. Maybe not, but
But yeah, I love how it's only the 3 lines. And Obi-Wan.
3 lines
is
made us cry.
Just smiling, but 3 lines made us cry easily. Yeah, and it's just gonna be Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan just hanging out in like that awful house now, just like trying to do Force stuff, and it's gonna be great. Oh my god, yeah, I love how Obi-Wan's also wearing the comics outfit as well. Like that was like a really cool like thing that I love how they just like slid in there. He has like the goggles and everything, which is like that long comic run, not long comic run, but the one that
Oh, yeah.
everyone is always like looks to.
I definitely want to
for-
see some
that-
cosplays of that. People have probably done the comic version, but I want to see this
Yeah.
this clean version.
One thing, that's funny. I just realized this, but parts of this. But at Star Wars Celebration on Thursday, I wore my Jedi outfit, and one thing that I really wanted to do was to wear like my like poncho with it, because of Qui-Gon Jinn, because Qui-Gon has his poncho, and I took like the behind the scenes like photo type thing. And I'm laughing at it like more so now because like I did that with the intention for it to be like Qui-Gon inspired, but like this is sorry, I'm gonna dive into a little bit of costume details with my own stuff right now. I only could bring like one pair of like tan boots with me to Celebration, and I couldn't bring my normal tall Jedi boots to Celebration. 'Cause whatever, I had to save space, so I brought like normal smaller ankle height boots. And I like did like leg wraps around them because I knew Obi-Wan in the promos for Kenobi had like this like leg wrap situation. So I had like this like nomad Jedi thing going on, but it was also Qui-Gon. And then we got Qui-Gon at the end of the show. It's like, did I call the show like early like at Star Wars Celebration? Yeah, I think I did. No, I'm
I guess
kidding.
so.
I guess I didn't. It was just
We'll say you
everything was
did.
blue. Yeah, whatever. Thanks.
Let's say you did.
Thanks.
But the show was fun. It was a fun ride.
Yeah.
Or was it? It was an entertaining ride.
It was
Because
fun.
it was a very dark show. Someone asked me like what I thought of this compared to Mando and Boba Fett or something, because those are the other 2 live action shows, and essentially it's just Mando and Mando. Boba Fett's just an extension of that season. But that show is, I can see the big differences between that show and this show, and that's more of an episodic adventure, literally fun. Like
Yeah.
your classic Star Wars. I hate to say something is like more Star Wars than something else, but that was an adventure type thing. That was like Solo. That show, and I don't know. Some people didn't like some moments in Book of Boba Fett, but whatever. And this show, Kenobi, was so dark. It had to be. It's the dark times, literally, and we had to see Kenobi going through this emotional arc to get where he needs to be. But I thought they did the show well. I thought they did it perfectly. Deborah Chow did a great job. It was written very well. The dialogue was eons better than the dialogue in the prequels, I think. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I'm pretty sure
yeah.
everyone would agree with you on that one.
Maybe not everyone, but whatever. The dialogue it was well written. The show was well written.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's Kenobi.
yeah. I'd give it.
No, you don't need to give
A
it
B.
anything.
I'll give it a B.
For
B's
Ned
good.
B.
For Ned B.
B for
I'll give
Ned
it a
B.
B.
That's
Yep.
good. I like that. Last thing to mention, we didn't mention Lola at all.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Love
we're
little
fired.
Lola. Well, we're fired. So
I'm
I'm just gonna
firing
mention her
myself.
right at the
We
very
didn't mention
end.
Lola. Lola was literally like one of my favorite parts of the show, and that's like one of the number one pieces of merch I want to get. That Lola droid from Hasbro.
Yeah, and we will. Easily.
Lola was great. What do you
Uh,
think happens to Lola ultimately?
Well, I don't know. Maybe
We
she
don't see her
either
ever again.
maybe she's probably, just on Alderaan when it happens.
But then she flies away, flutters away into space.
Then it appears like years later. Imagine that. That'd be something.
Well,
Wow.
there
Right.
we go.
Lola fluttering off into space. I love it. Right. So that was our Obi-Wan Kenobi recap. You can find us everywhere on social media at HoloNet Marauders. On Twitter, it is just at HoloNet Marauder. Thank you guys so much for listening to the HoloNet Marauders podcast. We have a video version of our podcast on YouTube, and it's available on all those audio platforms as well. Yeah, thank you much for listening to the HoloNet Marauders podcast.
See you next time.